So today is Tuesday. It is Yud Gimel year, Tafshanayim Dollar. Actually, today is the outside of the Rebbe's brother, Yisrael Ari Leib. And we are in the Maimer, Teres Menachem Sefer Memorim Tafshan Yud Aleph Tafshan Yud Beis. In the Maimer Zeh Yatzartah, Shabbos Parshas Shmini Mevochem Chedesh Ir Tafshan Yud Beis. And we are on page Reish Ayin Ches at the paragraph beginning with the word Vihine. Before we carry on, I want to pick up where we left off. One of the points we left off at in the last share on Sunday, and that is concerning the Neshamas, which is actually the theme of this Maimer, where the Rebbe is discussing now the difference between Neshamas that are at the level of Livyasan, the Leviathan, and Neshamas that are at the level of Shiur Habar, the wild ox. And generally speaking, the Rebbe explained that Neshamas that are called Livyasan, Leviathan, are Neshamas, are souls from Alma de Iskasya, from the concealed world. And Neshamas that are from in the level of Shiur Habar are Neshamas of Alma de Isgalia. So we discussed that there are neshamas from the realm of Atzilus, souls from the realm of Atzilus, and souls from lower realms. I just want to read you a section from the Rebbe Rashab's Maimer in Tafresh Samach Vov. It's the Maimer HaChedesh, very famous Hemshech, part of the Hemshech HaChedesh Azalachem, where he discusses this idea. Let's see what he says. I'll read it to you in English. I'll paraphrase, read it to you in English. He starts off by explaining that it says in the Pasuk, the Alter Rebbe quotes it in Tanya, you shall see the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha, a righteous person and a wicked person, between someone who serves Hashem and one who doesn't serve Hashem. From which it seems to mean that, seems to imply that somebody, when you say someone who doesn't serve Hashem, that's not a rasha. Because he already said, tzaddik v'rasha, right? Anyway, so the Rebbe Rashab goes in and explains there are two types of souls. There are souls that are called bonim, sons, children, and there are souls that are called avodim, servants. It's a theme that we touched upon in this Maimer, we touched upon in the Maimer in Tafshin Yud Aleph. So he says like this: the general difference between sons and servants, children and servants in terms of neshamas, the Eitz Chaim at the end says that a servant, a soul that's a servant, is a soul at the level of naran de bia, nefesh ruach neshama of bia, v'ri yitzir asiyah. Someone who merits also to nefesh ruach neshama and chaya of atzilus is considered as a son. He goes on and he brings another bunch of references, and then he goes on like this. Bottom line, he says, what comes out from this is that neshamas at the level of son, of children, are neshamas of Atzilus, souls from Atzilus. Avodim, servants, are neshamas from Bia, B'ri Yitzir Asiyah. It's known that both types of souls that are at the level of bonim, children, and at the level of servants, both are come from the unity of Zun, of Zoh and Malchus, of Atzilus. Right? As we explained, that any birth comes through unity. So just like the physical person down here is born through a union of the husband and the wife, the mother and the father, so too, or the father and the mother, so too, neshamas are born from a union. Which union? Zoh and Malchus. Zoh and Malchus from where? The Midas and Malchus from where? Of Atzilus. Generally, souls come from Atzilus. Zoh and Malchus of Bria does not have the strength, does not have the power to create souls. Only Malachim, angels, come from the unity of Zoh and Malchus of Bria. A soul, being that it's at a higher level, it has to have a greater power, a greater strength to come into being, and therefore it's specifically from the union of Zoh and Malchus of Atzilus. However, Where are the souls born? The union takes place where? In Atzilus, right? In the realm of Atzilus. Where are the souls born? The souls are born in Bria. Because when we talk about souls of Atzilus Mamish, in other words, souls that are not only born from a union of Zoh and Malchus of Atzilus, but also are born in Atzilus, in the realm of Atzilus, they come from Yichud Avo, from the union of Chachma and Bina of Atzilus. These should be themes that should be familiar to you because we discussed these, particularly when we learned the previous Maimon and Tafshin Yud Aleph. Right? But souls that are born from the union of Zoh and Malchus of Atzilus, they are born where? Not in Atzilus, but rather in Bia. Nevertheless, although souls are born from the union, generally speaking, let's park Yichud Avo Neshamas. Those are very, very high Neshamas. Let's park those souls on the side for a moment. But Neshamas generally are born from the union of Zoh and Malchus Atzilus, right? And the souls are born where? In Bia. The union takes place in Atzilus. The union of what? Of Zoh and Malchus of Atzilus. And the Neshamas are born in Bia. However, there are two levels of souls. In these souls that are born from a Yichud Zun of Atzilus in Bria. There are souls that are called Neshamas Atzilus, which are Bonim. And then there are souls that are called Avodim. And then Neshamas of Bia. What's the difference between the two? If they're both born from the same union of Zoh and Malchus of Atzilus, and they're both born where? In Bria, right? Why then are certain souls still referred to as Bonim and others as Avodim? Why then are certain souls referred to as Neshamas of Atzilus and others as Neshamas of Bia? And note, just as in brackets, we're not talking about Neshamas that are born from Yichud Avo and are born in Atzilus. We're talking about Zun, the Atzilus, to be born in Bia. Nevertheless, some Neshamas are Bonim, some Neshamas are Avodim. Some are called Neshamas of Atzilus, some are called Neshamas of Bia. Why? Because in the union, there are two elements to the union. There's the Zoh element and there's the Malchus element. Those Neshamas that are mainly the dominant element within them is the Zoh element. Those will be Neshamas of Atzilus. Those will be Neshamas that are called Bonim. Neshamas that the dominant element is Malchus of Atzilus, they will be called Neshamas Libya. They will be called Avodim. Because if you think about the logic, Zoh is still what? Of Atzilus, right? Its main emphasis, main idea is it's Zoh Atzilus. What's Malchus? Malchus is already the transmitter onto where? Onto Bia. So if the main element that is dominant is the Zoh element, then it'll be the neshama will be constituted as what? As a neshama of Atzilus. Whereas if the main element, the dominant element, is the Malchus element, that will be called a neshama of Bia.
So hold a second. So you're saying all neshamas before they come into this world are coming via Bria from the elements of two other worlds. Is that what you're saying?
From the elements, from the union of two elements from the world which is beyond it, from Atzilus.
Beyond
yes.
that.
Yeah.
And they come through Bria, and then they send.
They're born in Bria.
They're born in Bria, and then their destination, and they come into the goof. They come into this world. So what is it? Explain to me what is it within certain neshamas to define whether they come from Atzilus or they come from their original. Yeah. How would you know where they? What elements of a personality would lead you to believe that soul originated via Bria, became via Bria? How would you define the personality in order to differentiate between the difference of what you just?
The Rebbe Rashab goes into a lengthy explanation.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
But in simple terms, it is you could tell that certain people have a propensity for something higher, something more spiritual, right? And that's an indication as to where in the scheme of things that neshama should be placed. Now, I just want to conclude one more point from the Rebbe Rashab over here, which is also interesting and relevant. He says like this. So he says like this: all the souls come from this union of Zoh and Malchus Latzilis, right? The Zoh element is like the male. Malchus is the female. So the soul not only is born from the union, but is also a term of gestation. Malchus becomes pregnant from the union. And the soul develops in Malchus. Now, just like, he says like this, there are souls, for example, Moshe Rabbeinu's soul was in the womb of Malchus, as it were, for 7 months. Which means a shorter period. What does that mean? What is the point? What does the gestation element cause to the soul? It causes change in the soul, development, right? So the shorter the gestation period, the less impact Malchus has on the soul. So in other words, he says like this: when Moshe Rabbeinu was in the womb in Malchus for 7 months, it means he was, his essence wasn't changed. He was left to be what's called a neshama de ma. A neshama from the level of ma, which is Hashem's name Yud Kei Vav Kei in a certain milui, in a certain expansion of letters, as we say in Pasach Leo on Erev Shabbos. But it's the idea of ma is as we learned in the previous Maimed, is the numerical value of ma is Odom. Odom is the numerical value of ma, which is a reference to what? If you remember, there were 2 types of souls: Zera Odom and Zera Behema, the seed of man and the seed of animal. Similar to the idea of the seed of Atzilus and the seed of Bia. In other words, by Moshe Rabbeinu, the main Odom, main element was the Zoh element,
the higher,
the Atzilus element. Then there are souls that remain in a state of gestation for a longer period. For example, he says the neshama of Eliyahu Hanavi. He was carried for 12 months. That is already called the neshama de ban. Ban is the female. That's another. It's Hashem's name of 52. Numerical value 52. It's a filling of Hashem's Yud Kei Vav Kei name in a certain manner, which gives you the numerical value 52, which is again the emphasis on what? On the malchus, on the female aspect. So the longer the gestation period, that determines that it's more associated with malchus. That was Eliyahu Hanavi. So he says like this: souls that are mainly from Zoh, they will be neshamas of Atzilus. Even down here, they'll be in the mode of Atzilus, because Zoh is the end of the world of the infinite. So it's still within the world of the infinite.
Is that the divide between?
Well, it's not the divider. It's the end of the upper. Malchus would be Malchus, or even lower. Malchus is already the mode of
between Ayin and the
well, yes. The Ayin, the separation between the Ayin and the Yesh is the parsa. There's a parsa between the Tzilus and Biyah. That's another aspect. But in terms of mode, Zoh is of the celestial world. Atzilus. Malchus is already looking downwards. Correct. Exactly. If you want to break it down even further, in Malchus itself, you have the aspect of Malchus, which we also learned about that, which relates to the upper, and then you have the aspect of Malchus that relates to the lower. But generally speaking, this is the way it works. Okay? So in other words, how does this, as you say, how does this manifest itself in practice? How does it show itself in the soul as it comes down? So neshamas that are mainly from Ma, they will mainly serve Hashem from the perspective of their soul. They will be in a state of bittul. They will be in a state of cleaving and connection, essential cleaving and bonding to Hashem. They are called servers of Hashem with their soul. The neshamas of Ban will mainly serve Hashem with their body. So for example, you'll have people that are more associated with Torah, people that are more associated with good deeds, with action. All these things emanate from the type of soul that the person has. It's a very, very interesting piece. We should maybe expand on it, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. It should clarify more the points that we speak of here. And of course, then you have the higher souls that are from the yichud of Avo, Chochma and Bina, and even more so if we learned in the previous, in the Ma'ira that I referred to from before, that you even have souls that not only are from the yichud Avo, but they even have elements from Elam HaToyu, from the world which precedes Atzilus. By Moshe Rabbeinu it says, Ki min hamayim mishisiu, Moshe Rabbeinu had elements in his soul that remained from the realm which was even beyond it. But generally speaking, if we're talking about, so over there we're talking about, leaders, tzaddikim, not only tzaddikim, but I mean leaders of the Jewish people. So they come from a higher place. But the bottom line is, this is the general breakdown. What time is it?
6 minutes to
6 minutes to
7.
Okay.
Six,
So
5.5. What was that second reading from?
this is from Yom Tov Sholosh Shana Tafresh Samach Vav.
Oh, right.
Very, very famous hemshech from the Rebbe Rashab, one of the foundational hemshechim. It's a series of mamorim that the Rebbe Rashab said over, I think it's 61 or 66 mamorim, I don't remember how many, which he said over a period of years. Some of them, most of them I think he said, and some of them he wrote. And it's one long continuation, but within it you have like sections of the Maimer, which are, of the hemshech, of this continuum, that are, continuations within, like mini hemshechim. So Chodesh and Vayelech, these are two very famous mamorim, which talks about Ein Sof, the deepest, concepts of Chassidus.
Sure, they were translated.
I believe the Chodesh and Vayelech are translated. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. So you can check it out. Who did it? The Chassidic Heritage series, or huh?
With Moshe Miller, Weissfish.
Uh-huh. So it's worthwhile to look up. If I can find it online or something, I'll post it. But over there he goes into this, as you can see, he goes into this whole explanation of the differences of the neshamas. So when it comes to, getting back to the Rebbe's Maimer here, interestingly, the Rebbe puts neshamas of Alma the Iskasi, of the concealed world, not only in neshamas of Bia, but he says Atzilus and Bia. I'm sorry, Atzilus and Bria are in the bracket of neshamas of Alma the Iskasi, the concealed world. Whether he's referring to the Yichud Avo and the Yichud Zun. So Yichud Avo neshamas are born in Atzilus. Then you have the Yichud Zun neshamas that are born in Bria. But in that are born in Bria, you have the Atzilus aspect and the Bria aspect, right? Depending on whether. So it's the Chassidic heritage. Yeah, this is the Chassidic heritage. No, this is Ranat. It's not. Yeah, but it's Ranat. It's a different one.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the Rebbe over here says the souls that are from the concealed world are neshamas of Atzilus and Bria. So he might be referring to the souls that are born from the union of Avo in Atzilus and the union of Zun that are born in Bria, where the dominant element is the Zoh, which are still referred to as what? Neshamas of Atzilus, but they're born in Bria. I'm not quite sure about how the Rebbe breaks it down, but that's possible. That's the explanation. But here the Rebbe, if you remember, and you pointed it out also on Sunday, Bria is also in the Alma Diskasya bracket. Because Bria relative to Yetzirah is like thought relative to speech. Bria being thought and Yetzirah being speech. Interesting also, Zoh and Malchus is called Dibur. Malchus is referred to as speech. So it could be that this is, so Zoh relative to Malchus would be like thought relative to speech. So perhaps that's the way it's broken down. So anyway, so the Rebbe goes back, and let's go back to the Maimer a little bit, just to sum up what the Rebbe said over here concerning Shiur Bar. Concerning Shiur Bar, so Alma Livyasan, Livyasan are souls from Alma Diskasi, from the concealed world. Shiur Bar are souls from the revealed world. What's the definition of Livyasan? Livyasan is like Leah said, Apam Yilava Ishi Elai. This time my husband will be connected to me, right? So neshamas from Alma Diskasi, from the concealed world, cleave and are connected to Hashem, as we just said. Even down here, they serve Hashem with their soul. Whereas Shiur Habar is a reference, the wild ox is a reference to what? To souls that are from the revealed world. Why is it called Bar? So the Rebbe brought three interpretations for Bar. One means Bar Livov, purity and refinement. One means grain, Rav Tavus B'Keach Shiur, and one means Bar from the expression of the outside. So the Rebbe explained that, and in the outside we're talking about what? There are two aspects to the outside. There's somebody that's on the outside and assisting the one on the inside, and then someone on the outside interfering with the one on the inside, right? So he says like this. When we talk about an ox, that from the expression of grain, bar from the expression of grain, where you use the ox to plow the strength, so you're not talking about somebody on the outside, somebody on the inside. He's assisting, but he's of the inside. When we're talking about bar from the expression of the outside, it means that it's a more distant relationship to the inside, but yet assists. And then, of course, you have the one on the outside, which interferes. So those are the different elements of what? Of the souls, the lower souls. More refined. So now the Rebbe sums up. We'll just learn this short paragraph. V'hinei, Gimel Pirushim Anal, the three above mentioned definitions, Be'inyan Sheir Habar, in the idea of the wild ox, purity, purification and refinement, grain, and on the outside, they correspond to the three levels of the righteous, the intermediaries, and the wicked. The tzaddikim are the level of Sheir Habar, where they are refined and purified. So that's the first definition in bar, refinement and purification. The intermediaries are what? Are at the level where the abundance of strength, the abundance of wheat comes from the strength of the ox. Why is that a Beinani, the intermediary? A Beinani, the intermediary, is at a level that he never committed a sin, and he will never commit a sin. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that someone that transgressed can never be a Beinani. It means that now, he's in such a situation and condition, spiritually, that in the state that he now is, he will not transgress. What are the wicked? Those are the ones on the outside that interfere with the inside. Who wage war with the righteous. So these are the three definitions in Sheir Habar, the expression of bar, and to which level they correspond. And later on, the Rebbe goes in and explains what is the idea of the Leviathan slaughtering the Sheir Habar. Tomorrow.